Hey guys, it's Josh with Cardinal Offroad, and today I'm going to show you how I finished up my 4-link. So we have uppers and lowers done on both sides, and I'm going to show you how to do it, and then we're going to flex it out and see how it works. Don't forget to subscribe, check out my other videos, and hit that thumbs up. So from the last video that I did, I mounted my upper mounts here and my upper arms. Now, one thing I did since then is I cut this tub a little bit more so I could pop that up a little higher. And I also, down there at the floorboard for passengers, I had to hit that in with a hammer because the upper links were actually contacting the tub. Now, I got this a little further than full bump, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make sure there's plenty of clearance around everything. So now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and do these lower links. Now for those, I'm going to go ahead and start on the axle, and I have some angled links. I'm going to shoot for about 40 to 50 degrees inward to the cross member that I made. So let's go ahead and get those tacked into place. Before I mount these up, I want to go and show you guys what they look like. Now, as you can see, this end's notched in a little bit further than this side, and that's for your angle. So your truss will be running straight, but your mounts will be angled in, and that's because I'm doing a double triangulated. Now, if you were just doing straight control arms on the bottom, then these would be perfectly straight, and your mounts would stay straight. What you don't want is to mount these straight and then try doing a double triangulated, and then your links are going like this. So like I said on my uppers, you want to keep everything in line with each other so it's a smooth transition when you're flexing your suspension. Now, these particular brackets from Artec come with a 9/16 hole if you want to run a 9/16 bolt, but I upgraded and my heims and everything, and I'm going to go and run a 3/4 inch bolt just to be a little bit stronger. So I'm going to go and drill these out to 3/4. Alright, so now that I got this tacked into place, I have my heim joint in it. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of DOM over this, and then I will figure out, because I'm not exactly sure, I think this is about a 40 to 45 degree angle in, and so I'll put a piece of DOM on here, and then I'll shoot it towards the cross member, and then that'll show me where I need to put my other bracket. Okay, so I went ahead and put this piece of DOM on there. Now I just slid it on there, I didn't weld it or anything. And now I'm going to, well, what I already did was I took this piece of tubing, I laid it up against my cross member, and then I drew a line on each side of the DOM. And what that's going to do is let me know what angle my bracket needs to be at, and it's just a simple way of doing it. So, you know, so I put the DOM up against here, drew a line on each side, and now I'll go ahead and tack this bracket into place, and that should give me the correct angle from here to there. Now, one thing to keep in mind is make sure that you don't have your DOM, you know, at a hard angle or anything like that. Make sure it's straight in line, and that each side of the DOM with the bracket are even. So one thing I did, I have both brackets and arms up on the passenger side. So I went ahead and measured from the inside of the frame here to where my lower mount mounts in the cross member, and then I went over here and marked that line. That way I know when I put this arm up that it's in the same spot. So that's just an easy way to make sure you get everything correct, and correct from the center as well. Okay, so everything's tacked into place. I got the uppers all done, the lowers are done. Remember, when you go to do the other side, the easiest way is to obviously make sure your control arms are the same length and measure for your brackets, and that should put everything in the right spot from the other side. So just make sure you measure everything right. Now I'm going to go ahead and weld everything up a little bit better, because next thing I want to do is actually cycle the suspension, just make sure everything's moving smoothly and nothing's going to hit. And I'm not going to fully weld this. Like I said, I'm just going to make it a little bit better welds, more than the tacks. That way I don't have to worry about nothing breaking during the cycle. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do full droop. Now when I do this, I'm going to let it down slow. You don't want to let it down fast. That way you can keep an eye on how the suspension's moving, how your axle's moving. Notice everything's moving really smooth. There we go. So that's full droop. All right, next I'm going to leave the right side tucked, passenger side, and I'm going to let the left side droop down. Now all I did was put a jack stand underneath the axle on the right side. Again, make sure you go slow. Alright, so now we're going to do driver's side tuck and passenger side droop. Now that we're done with the 4-link in the rear, as far as, we know the traveling's good, nothing's hitting and stuff like that, I wanted to go over a few things. Before I do, if I missed anything in this video, I know I kind of skipped around with some of the welding and stuff like that. I'm just really trying to get this done, kind of get behind schedule. But if I did miss anything, or you guys want to see something that I did and I didn't show, just let me know and I'll put it on there. Just comment below. So the first thing I want to go over is link separation. So this is where I kind of messed up and I wasn't thinking. When I first started this, I was thinking about just doing a single triangulated, mainly because it's a little simpler. But what I wanted is to get my links and brackets, everything tucked up inside the frame. So I thought about going on the outside of the frame if I did a single triangulated, but instead I decided to go double triangulated. But where I messed up was my upper brackets on the frame side, I didn't put them up high enough. So I had to go in there, and you can actually see in this video where I'm underneath the Jeep, you can actually see where I had it tacked before and where I had moved it up. So I moved it up like 2 or 3 inches and it gave me perfect separation from the lower links. So nothing's hitting, everything's good. The other thing that's going to do is change your instant center. So your instant center is where your uppers and lowers, if you would draw a line, obviously they stop at the frame, but if you would draw a line where those stop and just keep going, at some point they're going to cross, and that's going to be your instant center. So you want to have that stuff to where it's somewhat farther out, and that's going to change your anti-squat as well. And there's anti-squat and you got anti-dive for the front. So to make it somewhat simplified, you just want to make sure that you have decent separation in those links so nothing's going to combine. Now you can only go so far up. I actually had to jack my tub up a little bit to give me more room to put those brackets. So it's just one thing you're going to run into. The next thing is your arm length or your link length. When you're doing that, make sure you're taking your time. It's not a bad idea to use some PVC. That way you know that the first, when you cut it, that you're not going to have to cut it in a piece. If you got everything in the right spot, you got your axle plumb bobbed, you got your brackets in the right spot, you should be okay. Put the heim joints in, stick the DOM on one side, raise it up, kind of mark where that's at. And if you want to mark a little long, that's not going to hurt. You can always cut your tacks off after you have it on the heim and cut a 1/4 inch or so off if you have to. Arm angle. So this is pretty important. So you don't want any steep angles, especially on your lowers, because what that's going to do is, especially if you're trying to go over rocks and stuff, it's not going to want to go over as easy. You're going to want to more dive in to the rock instead of trying to crawl over it. So make sure your angles are pretty good. My uppers are at a little bit of an angle, my lowers are pretty much completely flat. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And again, once your brackets are in a spot where you can't move them anywhere else, you're not going to have much of a choice on your arm angle. You want to make sure you keep around 10 inches or so from your axle brackets, which is going to be pretty easy because if you're running a truss, it's going to be right there anyway. So you're not going to have any issues there. Bracket placement, you want to try to get your stuff on the outside of the axle as far as possible. And the reason being is to make it more stable. Same with when you put your coilovers on. You want that stuff towards the edge of the axle. It's going to keep it a lot more stable when you're getting off camera and stuff like that. So just pay attention on that. And on your lowers for the inside towards the drive shaft, obviously you can only go in so far. So I think 40 degrees or so seems to be pretty common on most people. You might be able to go a little bit further, but there again, you're only going to be able to go so far before you get in the way of the drive shaft. So just pay attention to that. Full droop and full bump. These are important, especially full bump. And I think that's why it's easiest if you build it at full bump, because you know nothing's going to hit. If you build everything at full bump, that's where it's going to be. It's not going to go any higher. So then you do your full droop, do a tuck on the right, tuck on the left. You just want to make sure as that axle moves around that nothing is hitting and nothing's binding. So those are the biggest things to look for. And if you have any questions, let me know. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, if there's something I did that you didn't see or you have questions on, just comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the thumbs up.